Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of The More You Nole, a podcast about Florida State University. I'm your host, Mike, Director of Social Media for Florida State's Office of Admissions. Thanks for downloading this week's episode. If you haven't subscribed to the show yet, you can find The More You Nole on Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you can download podcasts. You can also find prior episodes of the show on our YouTube channel, as well as on our website, admissions.fsu.edu/podcast. On this week's episode, I speak with Jane Livingston, Chief Information Officer and Associate Vice President for Information Technology Services, also known as FSU ITS. We'll get into why she made the switch from private to public higher education, the various services offered by ITS, how to set yourself up for success with remote learning, and also some practical advice on practicing good cybersecurity. We hope you enjoy the interview. All right, so I'm here with Florida State University's Chief Information Officer, Jane Livingston. Welcome to the show. Can you please tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Hi, thanks for having me, Mike. I'm happy to be here. So I've been at Florida State just over a year, and it's been an exciting one. I've been in higher ed for a little over 20 years. I've been, I just got here about a year and a half ago, year and change ago, and I was coming from Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut, and I had been there about 13 years. I've worked in a variety of different capacities in IT over those years, and I'm really excited to be at Florida State.
Great, yeah. So you've been here about a year. So how's your first year been? Obviously, I guess kind of the pandemic threw a big wrench into things, but other than that, how have you been doing?
Oh, it's awesome. I love the institution. The culture here is really open. It's been quite an education in going from a private institution to a state institution, which is what I actually signed up for. I was actually very excited to learn about how public education was different from private education. And it's a lot of it is in kind of the way we're funded and the way that works with the state government. It's been really, really exciting to learn all of those things. But just to be in Florida, in an amazingly open institution that is just so collegial across the organization. I've just found everyone so open and collegial, which has been a really nice experience since I've been here.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you've been enjoying it here so far. Was there something that drew you to Florida State in particular, or did it just happen to be kind of the right job at the right time?
Well, I think it was a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. We were, when I was considering places that I was looking, I was really looking at places that had a geographic center that was close to family. So in this case, Florida State met one of those criteria. My mother-in-law is in Birmingham. So we were trying to get closer to our folks. Neither my husband nor I are from the Northeast. So we were looking to get back to closer to home. So I guess that was one component, but truthfully, Florida State is a pretty special place in my mind. I think one of the reasons I wanted to come to state institutions, well, not I think, I know, is that I actually am the product of a state institution. I am a first-generation college graduate. So being in a place that was really focused on making a difference in the lives of students was really important to me.
Right, yeah, and speaking of that, I guess ITS does a lot of stuff for the university. I think your scope is probably way bigger than even most students think. Can you give us just like a quick overview of everything that ITS does for us?
Sure. So ITS runs all kinds of technology for the university, everything from telephones and Wi-Fi and networks and websites and servers and storage. But we also do all the financial and administrative applications like Student Central. And we also do a lot of help directly supporting teaching and learning, AV classrooms, and a whole lot of other things that probably I could rattle off for a long time.
So I'm really interested with the coronavirus pandemic. It must have been just kind of a real curveball thrown at you for the middle of the spring semester. What was it like in the early days of it and getting everything ready to move over to remote learning and work?
Yeah, well, we got really lucky in a lot of ways. So I got here, like I said, a year ago. And when I got here, I was kind of surprised that we didn't have a university wide web conferencing tool available to everyone kind of for free. And it was particularly surprising to me because the campus is so huge. I mean, we really are very spread out. And I mean, at least speaking for me, I was running myself all over the campus to meet with people. And it's a lot of travel and finding parking and all of those good things. So it was surprising to me that we didn't have something that was just easily available. So at my previous institution and lots of institutions I know in Florida also use Zoom. And so we started our agreement with Zoom. We initiated in August, and then we finalized it in October and started rolling it out. And then we integrated it with Canvas in November and December, and we were ready to roll for education and teaching and learning using Zoom in January, which was incredibly lucky, I think, for us. Yeah, it was really, really lucky timing. And it makes us look a little prescient, but truthfully, it was just really, really good luck. And, you take good luck where it comes. And in this case, it really helped us, I think, accelerate the ability that we could move classes online to remote classes, not proper distance learning classes, but remote classes. I think it was a huge help. So the first few weeks, as we were kind of watching the coronavirus in the news and recognizing that it was going to be an issue for the whole nation, the world, we started talking at my leadership team table about what we could do to prepare. And I think one of the big first things that we did beyond Zoom was trying to think about how we could support remote call centers. So we had no software currently on campus that would allow us to have, say, the help desk folks or the Canvas support folks answer their phones from anywhere but at their desk on campus, right? So we had to install new software and configure it and get it up and running. And we did that in record time. And that actually has been hugely impactful. University Health Services has been using it. And Canvas, support goes through there, as well as the ITS help desk. It's been tremendously important and I think impactful for the institution.
Yeah. So you mentioned that we were able to stand up remote learning pretty quick at Florida State, but you also mentioned there's a distinction between remote learning, which is kind of what we're doing right now, and distance learning. Can you go over that for our listeners?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit different at every institution how they define the words, but there's generally face-to-face learning, which is what your kind of traditional thing when you go into a classroom and you're taught by a professor and the professor stands at the front of the room and talks to you and everybody's there and you have discussions. Everybody knows what that is. And then you've got hybrid, which we do a lot of here at Florida State as well. And hybrid is when you have both a professor in front of the room talking to you, but maybe also you're doing stuff in Canvas. Maybe you're doing kind of flipped classroom things where the professor asks you to do stuff in advance and then you come in and discuss it. So that's kind of more hybrid learning. That's what they call that. And then distance learning properly, I would say that that's when you really are truly more asynchronous. Now you can have synchronous components, meaning that the course is meeting all the human beings are in a synchronous environment talking to each other at the same time. That's possible in distance, but it's not usual in distance. In distance, most often what you have is asynchronous, where you can watch the lecture at any time you want. You can take the quiz at any time you want. It gives a lot more flexibility to the student, as well as, I guess, to the faculty member. Now, the downside or the challenge, I think, with distance learning is that it's more expensive to produce. And a lot of people don't know that. But it takes a lot more tools and more interventions. And usually you have to have more teaching assistants to support the class and how it unrolls as the course goes over the course of the semester.
All right, so moving on to some other stuff that you started. I know you started the Voice of the Community campaign pretty soon after getting here. Can you explain what that campaign is and what its goals are?
Sure. It was initially conceived as a way for me to get a pulse on how the university felt about IT, how we were doing, how we were meeting the needs of the community, what we were doing well, what we could improve. It gave us an opportunity to really just do. It was really kind of a listening session that was focused on end users for me. So as a new leader, you come into a new role, and you usually go around and listen to all of the different people on campus who are major stakeholders in what your services that you're delivering. And I did that. But that gives me the leadership's perspective. It doesn't give me the student on the streets perspective of how is IT serving you? Are we doing enough to support you and, I don't know, your desktop support needs? Or are we giving you enough access to digital media capabilities or advanced analytic capabilities? So those are the kinds of things that I wanted to know. And that's why we did the Voice of the Community campaign. And we interviewed hundreds of people across campus. And then since then, after we themed the responses and understood kind of conceptually where we had opportunities to improve, we've been making incremental improvements and reporting back to the community how we're doing and what we are accomplishing on the different places where they gave us feedback.
So speaking of some of the services that you provide to students, are there any ones that you think are particularly useful that our incoming students should be aware of?
Yeah, so we actually have a new Nole tech list on our website, which I would highly recommend that new students check out. It's kind of a nice, handy dandy place where you can get a whole lot of information about a bunch of tools that would be very useful to you as an incoming student. It's its.fsu.edu/tech list, all one word. And it will be featured on our homepage of the website too. But there, it even lets you know kind of, you can even sort between if you're on campus, if you're a residential student, there's a whole different list of things that are available to you as an off-campus student. So I think it's a really good set of nice little helpful list of tools and instructions for how to get started once you get here.
Let's see. We get this question a lot. I don't know if you probably don't have one single answer for it, because I'm sure there isn't one answer for it, but what's the best laptop for college?
Well, I guess it depends on your budget. I think that probably I would say you should buy the best laptop you can afford if you want it to last you all 4 years, because it tends to slow down in the last year. I think that would be good advice. I think that a lot of people have a religious affiliation with a particular platform. They might be Apple people or they might be Microsoft people. I think Apples are more expensive, but they do tend to be a little less likely to get viruses and to be a little more predictable in their usability. So I think it's a personal choice for sure. I think that it definitely, there's a lot of good tools out there, and with your parents or with your folks who can help you make the best financial decisions, advisors of whatever kind. I think you should try to buy the best computer you can if you can afford a computer.
And then, of course, we also have resources for students that may need help getting access to computers. Can you explain some of those?
We do. In fact, as a part of COVID, we actually raised a lot of money and distributed computers to students who didn't have them. And we actually would love to continue that program. I think that the CARES program, or the CARE program here at FSU, the Unconquered Scholars program, those are, I'm so passionate about the capabilities that we provide to those students.
Do you have any technology tips for our incoming students to help them succeed in college, or like how can students leverage technology? Or even just, it doesn't maybe necessarily be how to leverage technology, just how can students really succeed in that online learning environment, since it is different from the face-to-face instruction?
So I would say engage. So I'm going to answer your second question about how do students really get good results from engaging in remote education. And I think engagement is key. So if you put yourself in there, you take the time to set up, your profile picture and your identity and a little bio about you, and if that's a possibility in the different platforms that people are using, you should definitely do that, because I think that you feeling embedded and engaged and sharing that information with your instructor really does change the dynamic to being less anonymous and online kind of way. You want to actually be who you are. You want to come across with your real identity. So that's the first thing, engage. And then the second thing I would say is, I think just being an active participant, really thinking about really engaging with the material, trying to pretend you're in a traditional face-to-face environment. If you can try to put yourself in that mindset, then I think that you will actually learn more effectively.
So this is a big, important topic, I know, across the whole university, but I really want to focus on what students can do in particular to make sure they're practicing good cybersecurity. How can they protect themselves?
Yeah, well, I definitely have advice for you there. So be a critical consumer of information. And this is not just about protecting you from cybersecurity. This is about protecting you from any kind of misinformation on the internet. If you read something and it's like, I wonder if that's true, Google it, see if it's true. And so be a critical consumer of your email too. If somebody's sending you a note saying that somebody at FSU is hiring somebody and you're going to make so much dollars an hour and it's going to be great and there's going to be a free lunch every day, ask yourself, is this a legitimate thing? Does it look right? I mean, I think that being a critical consumer of everything is really, really important. And this goes for everything, not just email. Also, I would suggest to students that they use a password manager. So there's some free ones out there and very inexpensive ones out there. And I do think that password management is an important thing, because you shouldn't use the same passwords on your student accounts as you do on your banking accounts, as you do on your Twitter accounts, as you do on your Facebook accounts, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. You should use different passwords. And the reason that that's a good idea is because if one of those places gets hacked and they are able to harvest usernames and passwords, they can just lift and shift those usernames and passwords and try to use them with other places that you're affiliated with. And this is a tried and true thing that happens all the time in cybersecurity. So being aware of your password. Obviously, don't write it down. Don't tattoo it on anything, any part of your body, and just really be a critical consumer of information. Don't believe everything that somebody says to you, and really recognize that there very rarely is a free lunch. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah, and I think I'd also add to that, just check the spelling on stuff that you get. I know we get, even at FSU, with as good as our cybersecurity is here, we'll still get like spam or phishing emails seem to come through. I used to probably get like maybe one a month. I'll get an email that is like, oh, your FSU account is going to be shut down, or, something like that. And I was like, I don't ever buy them, but the spelling is always terrible. And I just wonder, how do they not even spell check it?
Exactly. So that's a really good point. Spell checking, like doing a reality check about, does it look real? Is this likely? Does this make sense to you? Is this something that sounds like reasonable? I mean, these reality checks, these kind of being critical consumer of information, I think those things are really just good common sense ways to protect yourself in this kind of online world.
Yeah, all right, so kind of moving on and looking to the future, is there anything on the horizon from ITS that we should be looking forward to? Anything exciting coming up?
Well, I don't know if you would say this is exciting, but on the same topic of cybersecurity, I will say that we're looking at, in fact, we're implementing right now for faculty and staff, two-factor authentication, which is probably something you've used with your bank already, which means that you have to set up a device or a separate phone or something, a code, where you not only type in a password, but there's also a second factor authenticating you against whatever site it is. So what we're doing right now for faculty and staff is we are implementing two-factor authentication with Office 365, which is our email system, and we'll be doing it with single sign-on in the fall. So after that, shortly after that, we're going to look at how can we roll this out for students as well. Student accounts are particularly vulnerable to all kinds of phishing and spam. And what two-factor authentication does is it would be pretty magical in cutting down that phishing and spam.
I know we've been using it in parts of Student Central in our office for a couple years. If there's secure data, especially if there's any page that has like someone's social security number on it, you need to go through two-factor authentication to get to it. It seems like kind of a pain when you first start doing it because you're like, oh, it's this extra thing, but it's been set up to the point where it's so painless now that I don't even notice it when I log in.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been using it for years in other platforms. I mean, I think you can even two-factor your Twitter account and your Facebook account. So
you can, because mine are.
Exactly. So there you go. And I think a lot of students are more kind of socially savvy about those kinds of tools to protect their identity. And I'm hoping that actually the student implementation of two-factor authentication will be even easier than the faculty and staff.
Great. Okay, so now I have some kind of, these are my quick fire lightning round questions that I like to ask to everybody. So you've been here about a year and a half. What's your favorite thing about Florida State?
The culture, the people. Everybody is so open and kind and genuinely interested in helping other parts of the university be successful. I mean, ITS is kind of interesting because we have this kind of global view of both the pain, I would say, across the organization of technology and how it hurts, or it doesn't work. And then also the opportunities of how it is working and how we can help each other. And I think that kind of global view, I see myself as ITS is the mortar and the cracks. Like we are kind of in between all the bricks, bringing everyone together. And I think that really, really helps when you're trying to get people, when you're trying to help people say, like, let's say one organization has found a solution for something, and then Central IT comes in and says, oh, we noticed that this other organization on campus really needs the same thing. And then we try to bring them together, go through vendor, help them with vendor negotiations, help them try to make a solution that then might actually help more than two organizations across the institution. So I found people here very open. The culture has been very welcoming and really just kind of delighted to have IT's presence at the table.
Right. So, I guess before the pandemic, let's say it's lunchtime. What's your favorite local place to go for food?
Rickshaw Tacos.
Oh, I haven't been there yet, but I heard good things.
Yeah, it's really good. It's probably my favorite place. I love it. It's great.
Cool. Let's see. And then also, while we're all kind of stuck working from home, is there anything particularly interesting that you've been reading or watching or kind of binging or whatever?
Oh, well, there's been a lot, I guess. It's been a fair amount of time. We've been remote now for something like 13 weeks, right? So I think I've binge watched a few things, but right now with my son and husband, we've been watching The Expanse, which is a sci-fi show. It's been really fun. I also think I might have binge watched Outlander.
I love Outlander. Great show.
Yeah, it was good. Enjoyed both of them.
Cool. Let's see. And then my last question, if you could only give our incoming students one piece of advice, what would it be?
Be open to new experiences. Be open to thinking and studying things you didn't necessarily think you were interested in. I think that students, I have a son who's roughly this age, and I think that students come in and they think they know exactly what they want to study all the time. And and that may be true. That may be what you end up studying, but don't discount the importance of studying history or studying literature or studying social sciences or something that's not necessarily in your immediate wheelhouse. I think that those kinds of experiences broaden you and help you think, be a better critical thinker and a better citizen going forward.
Great. Well, Jane Livingston, CIO, Florida State University, thanks so much for being here, and go Noles.
Thanks. Go Noles.
Thanks again to Jane Livingston for her time, and also to Sydney Royer, Betsy Chester, and Rebecca Dorn at ITS for helping to arrange the interview. If you'd like to learn more about information technology services, check out its.fsu.edu. The new Nole tech list is available at its.fsu.edu/techlist. And if you'd like to follow them on social media, they're at Florida State ITS on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you've been enjoying The More You Nole, we'd really appreciate you taking a moment to rate and review or recommend the show on iTunes or in your podcast app of choice. Word of mouth is a huge help to us as well, so please also share the show with any of your friends or family who may enjoy it. Our next episode is going to focus on Tallahassee's art scene and will feature our first student interview with a member of the College of Fine Arts Leadership Council. If you have any questions on the topic and would like them asked on the show, please send them to us on social media. We are at FSU Admissions on Twitter and Facebook and at FSU.admissions on Instagram. You can also email questions or any feedback about the show to admissions@fsu.edu, including the word podcast in the subject line. As always, our theme music is the world-renowned Florida State University Marching Chiefs, recordings courtesy of Mark Records, Clarence, New York, markcustom.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show in Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice. Thanks again for listening, and go Noles.